All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. Can everybody hear me? I'm testing out a new microphone, so I wanted to upgrade the experience here and try to start recording some better videos. But, anyways, welcome everybody to this new live stream. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We got people from LA, Japan, I think all over the world. So I'm just really excited to come on today's show. And I'm going to give you a bit of an outline. We're going to wait for a few more people to jump in, and then we're going to give a bit of an outline of what we're going to cover in today's episode. So, as we all know, it's coming up to the 2020 election, and this is a really important a really important time for America right now. And I wanted to share my insights as an American expat, someone that has been living abroad now for 13 years, obviously continuously looking back at my home country, looking at it from the outside in. And obviously America is in a very unique place in history right now. We're about 2 months away, less than 2 months away from this election, which is really going to be an important mark for America moving forward. So basically, I'm going to give an outline, going forward for today. So first of all, I want to share with you my background. Many of you know I'm American, but I want to tell you a little bit more about my story, how I grew up in America, what was my political influences as a kid, because I think a large part of who you are today is a result of your background and your environment. I've spent the first 23 years of my life in America. So I want to give you some insights into, where I grew up and how that shaped my political views. Then I'm going to talk about, what would a Donald Trump victory actually mean for China if Donald Trump goes on to win again. And then would also like to talk about what would a Joe Biden victory mean for China. I'm going to compare both candidates, and basically analyze, excuse me. I would basically going to analyze, who's going to win, how that's going to affect China. Then I'm going to talk about what Chinese people want to see. I've done some polls on my Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok. I want to tell you exactly what I think Chinese people want to see, what that's going to mean for China. And then I'm going to just tell you basically my thoughts about America and what I'm thinking about as we're going to this poll. I'm going to be voting in this election. So I want to take you into the minds of an American myself, kind of share exactly, what am I thinking, as I'm getting ready to cast a vote. Then I'll finally share some final thoughts. So everybody, thank you again for tuning in. We did a live stream about 2 weeks ago. Really some great feedback from everybody. And I want to thank you all for just the continued growth on this channel. The channel has really been growing fantastically over the last month or so. I just really appreciate all the comments, from everybody. And I've been a little bit quiet on making videos these past couple weeks. My family and I, it was the last week of summer, so we had all of our kids. I've got 3 young children, so all of them were out of daycare and stuff. So didn't have a chance to make any new videos, but I've got a lot of exciting things in the pipeline that I'm going to continue to do. So at the end of today's session as well, we are going to be opening this up to questions and answers. And I do want to say one thing. Last live stream, we did have a super chat sent from Arthur Chan in Hong Kong. It was a very generous super chat. I did not get a chance to see that, and I did not say thank you. So Arthur, if you are watching this or if you watch this replay, I just want to say thank you for the support to the channel. I did not mean to miss you, last time. My apologies. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start off by talking about my background in America. Now, I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and Florida is a swing state. It can either be Democrat or Republican. Now, where I specifically grew up, I grew up in Central Florida in a very, very ultra conservative Christian environment. And I don't say that in a bad way. I mean, I am a Christian. I do believe in God. I do have a faith. But what was interesting is that, being kind of in this bubble, I grew up in this Christian bubble, if you will. And what's really interesting is that inside that community, everybody is very focused on being Republican. Okay, you cannot be a Democrat in this society. So kind of my entire background, my community, my friends, my family, everybody that was around me was a Republican. And I want to share with you really the cornerstone of the Republican Party. And the cornerstone is really focusing on abortion. And this is a really interesting thing because, as I think in so much in America, we're so divided on so many different policies, whether it be gun rights, gay rights, whether it's abortion, we're pretty much split down the middle, and that's how a lot of people choose parties. You essentially choose the Democrats or the Republicans based on your feeling. Now, for the Christian community, abortion really is the cornerstone. That is the one fundamental factor. And that is usually why most conservatives will vote Republican, because most Republicans are pro-life. And growing up in this community, I mean, we were taught, from a very young age, every day, we were taught you must vote Republican, Democrat is not the way to go. And, I mean, you can talk about a brainwashing of sort, in the sense of, there was no other option. We couldn't even talk about, like, well, should we listen to the Democrats? Maybe they have something to say. It was, no, they're the enemy. That is kind of the environment that I grew up in. And I want to kind of give you an insight, because living abroad, what's really interesting is I have a lot of people that are saying, Cyrus, I want to. How does Donald Trump get elected? How do Republicans support Donald Trump? And so this is really interesting. One of my friends on Facebook, he recently sent out this, and I'm going to read this to you, word for word, what he sent out, and just to give you an insight into the Republican mind. So here it is. To answer all of those who would say, I can't believe you would vote for Trump. Well, folks, listen up. I'm not just voting for him. I'm voting for the Second Amendment. Now, Second Amendment is the right to bear arms, the right to have a gun. Very big, key founding principle, again, for Americans. I'm voting for the next Supreme Court justice. I'm voting for the Electoral College and the republic we live in. I'm voting for the police. I'm voting for law and order. I'm voting for the military and the veterans who fought and died for this country. I'm voting for the flag that is always missing from the Democratic background. And I'm voting for the right to speak my opinion and not be censored. I'm voting for secure borders. I'm voting for the right to praise my God without fear. And I'm voting for every unborn soul the Democrats want to murder. That's okay. Again, there's the abortion. That's the key thing again. And I'm voting for freedom in the American dream. I'm voting for good against evil. And I'm voting for one person. I'm not voting for one person. I'm voting for the future of my country. What are you voting for? Now, if you're talking about some right-wing propaganda, I mean, this is really a great example. I mean, somebody that is really brainwashed into just believing the right side. Now I am a registered Republican in the state of Florida. I've been registered with the Republican Party. I would say that my views generally tend to be a little bit more conservative, but as you know, with my channel, I'm very much preaching about learning to get together. So the thing that I hate about the United States political system is that we're so divided, right? The right and the left are so far extreme, and it has become this thing of good versus evil. And I don't agree with that. I think we need to look at it as, you have Republicans and you have Democrats. Both parties want to improve America, right? I mean, that makes sense. Both parties want to improve America, but they want to do it in a different way. And we can't look at it as good versus evil. And that's one of the first things that when I saw this Facebook comment, that was one of the comments that says, I am voting for good against evil. So immediately, this is just kind of shows you the mentality that's happening in America right now, is that some people believe, look, I'm a Republican. I'm good. Democrats are evil. Some of extremers are saying, the Democrats are from, directly from Satan. I mean, just this very, very extreme nature. And obviously, this is not healthy for America. This is what kind of shows you why America is so divided right now. But there's a couple things in there that I want to point out, is talking about the Supreme Court justice. Now, many of you might not know this. In the United States, we have the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. There's 9 spots on that court. And the president has the power to appoint that Supreme Court's justice. Now, when you get appointed to the Supreme Court, that appointment lasts forever. You can essentially, you'll be in there until you pass away or you resign, but you'll never have a term limit. So it's very influential, and it's, to be a Supreme Court justice. Now, this is the big thing. In 2016, Donald Trump was able to get so much of the Republican vote simply because in his 4 years of president, he would have 2 choices. He could nominate 2 people. There were 2 spots that were going to be eligible, which is very rare for a president to have the opportunity to appoint, even 1 Supreme Court justice. But Donald Trump, he had the opportunity to support not 1, but 2 Supreme Court justices. Now, for the Republican Party, they said, well, if Donald Trump can appoint these 2, we can basically swing this in the favor of the Republicans. And as a result, we can, basically tackle abortion. And again, it was all about abortion. And it was really interesting. In 2016, we had, right when Donald Trump had this scandal come out on his comments about women, And this is why Donald Trump has reached a celebrity status. And he is essentially, he can say whatever he wants, and he will never be held accountable for it, because people just look at this Supreme Court justice. They say, well, he has the ability to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and we can overturn abortion. And so they're kind of brainwashed in that sense, is that they are overlooking everything else he does. Anything else. I mean, for instance, we just saw this new scandal just this week, Donald Trump admitting that he significantly downplayed COVID-19. He knew that there was going to be risks. And, he basically, it's on his hands, how bad America's COVID response was. I mean, America had a huge lead time. It could have, built up supplies. It could have, really, got a great jump start on it. And you got to remember, I mean, the United States is supposed to be the most powerful country in the world. And again, it was in a recent poll, it was actually nominated the #1 country in the world to be able to handle a pandemic. Obviously, that was nonsense, because we aren't the best country to handle a pandemic. And so I think that's what's interesting right now when you're talking about Donald Trump and you're seeing him campaigning. You're simply saying, I'm going to save you from a bad America, and it's like, well, you've been in charge for the last 4 years. It's you are the direct representative of what's happening in America for the last 4 years. It's your party that's being in charge, but there's just so much chaos and just so much, obviously the Republicans are saying, well, it's still the Democrats that are, the main problem for this. So I just wanted to kind of share some insights, as far as what is going on in the Republican Party. My view, of course, was being a Republican. And I think one of the interesting things that I thought about is, as soon as I graduated university, I was 23 years old. And within 3 weeks, I moved to China. So my first job post-graduation was actually in Shanghai, China. And I started going abroad. And what was really interesting was when coming from that very conservative Christian community, I mean, people were baffled that I would go live in a communist country. And at that point, this was in 2007, or January 2007, when I went to China. And many people, they just simply didn't understand. Now, again, this is 13 years ago, but even at that point, people are saying, if you go live in China, do you have to give up your American citizenship and become a Chinese national? And I said, of course not. Like, I'm going to be an expat. And first of all, I can't do that. You can't become a Chinese national if you're foreign born. But also, it's just, I'm going to be an expat. I'm going to go work abroad. But so this concept was just so, far stretched. People just could not understand, a American like myself, growing up in this ultra conservative community, going to China, to Shanghai, China, to begin my career. It was really hard for them to comprehend. And I think, again, this is one of the things that I say in a lot of my videos. There's so much fear about China, and that fear is just really a lack of understanding. Many people don't understand China, and that's why they fear it. And that's why I'm hoping a lot of these YouTube videos can actually bring some clarity and bring some knowledge specifically to the Western community, because there's just so many stereotypes that we don't know, there's so many stereotypes that people believe in. They just simply don't know about China. But let's go ahead and continue here. So that's the first part, my background in America. I wanted to give you an insight into that. Now, what would a Donald Trump victory mean for China? And how would that work? How would that happen? So if Donald Trump wins in 2020, if he wins in the next 2 months, I believe what we're going to see is you're going to see a continuation of Donald Trump's campaign right now, which is really, he's very much attacking China on the economic basis. Okay. He's very much talking about, how this is the China virus, how it's damaged the U.S. economy. He's worried about the trade deficit. Early in his presidential career, he was talking about the trade tariffs, and we had this trade war going on with China for the last few years. And I think with Donald Trump, he is a businessman, and I think he's very much focused simply on the economics. He's all focused about American jobs. How do we grow American jobs? And he has told this lie to America, essentially, that China is stealing our jobs, and that China is the root of all evil. And we need to bring back American jobs to America. Now, the interesting thing is that China has not stolen any jobs from America. And in fact, I think it's only created jobs in America. People, if jobs are being lost in America, it's simply done to automation. Factories are becoming automated. There's a great Netflix show, or a great Netflix movie called American Factory. And it was amazing because you have these factory workers in Michigan who are making windshield glasses for cars. and you have somebody being paid $20, $30 an hour to basically take a piece of glass and move it from here to here. And you know that when modern day we can do that with robotics. We don't need to pay a person to basically move a piece of glass from point A to point B. We can get a machine to do that. And I think that's what we're seeing. For instance, in the next 20 years, you could possibly see taxi drivers, completely eliminated. Millions of taxi drivers going unemployed simply because, automated cars, which we already have in China right now, that are self-driving taxis, that could become mainstream. So I think that is more the biggest fear for, again, if you look at a McDonald's, for example, in 20 years, is anybody going to be at the counter? Maybe you'll have a couple people making some food, but so much of that's going to be automated. So you're going to have a lot of jobs that are going to be eliminated simply because of automation and technology advancement. And I think the reason why I say China has actually been helpful for American jobs is you see these companies that go to China, they manufacture, and they're expanding and having more jobs. The classic example I always use is Apple. I mean, again, Apple, they have grown tremendously over the last decade, specifically because of their relationship with China. But as a result, they've had more Apple stores, more Apple employees, more people are benefiting from that relationship. And that's because, again, America companies are going to China. And again, the other thing is that China's never stolen any American jobs. We always have to realize it's American CEOs that are going overseas and they are going to China to manufacture, right? No Chinese factory is holding a gun to an American CEO saying, you must come here to manufacture your goods. No, it is definitely the American CEOs and the owners. They are wanting to come in and they are wanting to, obviously have higher profit margins. So my thing is, I think with Trump is he has a perfect excuse for COVID-19. And that is, of course, he has the perfect alibi, and that would be, let's blame China. And what's quite amazing right now is I think we're pretty much all under the understanding that COVID-19 never originated in Wuhan. I mean, there's substantial evidence now that basically indicates that COVID-19 has been around us for a long time. For example, I mentioned in one of my videos earlier, we had Spanish sewage from March 2019 had traces of the coronavirus inside of that. Forbes just released an article yesterday that most likely COVID-19 was circulating, around LA as early as December 2019. So this whole idea that, it originated from the seafood market and that it's, China manufactured this in a laboratory, which Michael Pompeo still believes is true. I mean, all of this is nonsense. We know it's nonsense. COVID-19, it's a respiratory disease. These type of viruses happen all the time. Look at swine flu from 2009. This kind of stuff happens when you have 6 billion people in the world and all these different cultures and flights around the world. We're a very connected world. So, the reality is that, again, Donald Trump was exposed again earlier this week, simply saying that, he downplayed COVID-19. But again, hardcore Republicans are not going to believe that. Donald Trump has reached this celebrity status where he can say anything he wants. He's untouchable. And that is, they are just so brainwashed in that sense and saying, you know what, he's going to make America great again. He's going to make America great again. So I think, if for instance, Donald Trump wins again, we're going to see, some continued pressure. Now, I think one of the interesting thing is TikTok. Now, I think we're coming up to this deal that TikTok needs to be sold. And Donald Trump has said, I believe it's a September 15th deadline. And he said, look, I'm not going to give an extension. This needs to be sold. Now, China's pushing back right now. China's saying, TikTok, or they're telling ByteDance in Beijing, the company that owns TikTok, we're saying, we do not want you to, sell to the American government. I think largely because of precedents, right? Obviously, if the United States forces this sale and they win, that's a big, that's a huge loss of face for Beijing, right? That's a huge loss of face. And essentially, that's precedence for future cases. So if there's another Chinese technology company that, rises up in the next few years, the U.S. could make a bid for that as well and simply say, well, you know what, we bullied TikTok into selling and we're going to do it to you. And so I think that's why the Chinese government is basically, battling against this. However, we have to remember this. This is really interesting. ByteDance in 2017, they bought the app music.ly, Musically. They bought that app for $1 billion in 2017. They're now looking at selling TikTok 3 years later, less than 3 years, for anywhere from 30 to 50 billion US dollars. Now, I cannot think of a better investment for ByteDance. So kind of on the flip side, I mean, there's one side of it is saying, you know what, we don't want to sell to America because, we are a Chinese company. But on the other side, it's like, geez, I paid $1 billion US in 2017. Here we are 3 years later. I'm going to sell it between 30 to 50 billion. That's an amazing return. And I can take that, huge lump sum of cash and essentially now reinvest that into Douyin, Xigua, Toutiao, all these other platforms that ByteDance runs in Beijing. So I think on the long run, that's why I'm not really too concerned for ByteDance. I love ByteDance. I love the company. And I think, they just know, look, we're very profitable and we're about to have a huge, so kind of, it's a win-win either way. If they win and they hold out and they actually get to continue to operate in America, great. That's what they wanted to do in the first place. But if they are forced to sell, I mean, they're still going to make a lot of money too. And that's one thing that we need to keep in mind. Hold on, I'm going to take I've got a super chat here. The truth about the origin of COVID-19 will be unveiled. Maybe not now, but eventually it will. I think it will. I mean, and I think what we're seeing right now, just to address that super chat, is, we're seeing a lot of people really shifting. I mean, you don't hear this any day about, Wuhan and the virus and China. You're not hearing that as much. And there's just more and more evidence coming out. Forbes releasing that article that it was circulating in LA. You're going to see more and more things like that. I agree with that. This will get, released further. And I think anybody that studies science and that actually has an interest in learning more about COVID-19 is pretty much understand it. It did not come from China. It's been circulating around the world well before that. So to blame China is just ridiculous. However, for Donald Trump, he failed to prepare the United States of America. Our COVID-19 response was a disaster. That's why we're leading the world in COVID-19 cases. We're coming up on 200,000 deaths. And, this is the perfect excuse. And you look at Donald Trump, I'm mad at China right now. I'm not talking to China. I'm mad at him. It's quite comical. I mean, that is the Donald Trump style. He very much is, a kid sometimes in the way he presents his dialogue, but it's very funny. So anyways, I think if TikTok does sell, let's just go on a case. Let's imagine that ByteDance says, you know what? Let's go ahead and sell TikTok. Let's go ahead and realize that profit. Let's go ahead and make 30 to 50 billion US dollars on this sale. And Donald Trump says, if it does sell, Microsoft needs to give a kickback to the US Treasury. Now, if that happens, I think Donald Trump is going to be bloating. He's going to be saying, look at me. I battled against China. I won. I just made the United States a lot of money. We just got a kickback to the U.S. Treasury. I'm making America great again. It almost could be a way for China and the U.S. to say, okay, I'm going to give Donald Trump a little bit of face here. I'm going to let him win this little battle. Because at the end of the day, ByteDance is really the big winner. I mean, they're making a huge amount of money off the sale. But it could just be something where it allows both sides of the table to say, okay, we've got this done, and Donald Trump's a businessman. Again, this is my point with the Donald Trump victory is at the end of the day, he is all about the American economy, right? That's his big thing is look at the Dow Jones, look at how much it's rising. I'm responsible for that. Look at the amount of jobs that I've created. I'm responsible for that. Look at America, how great it is. I'm responsible for that. Now, Donald Trump, what he needs to do is he has to ensure that there are a continuation of jobs, a good economy, a good stock market. And the reality for that is he has to sit down to the table and realize that working with China is the best for all those things to happen. Okay, if he continues down this road and he essentially starts a war with China, that's going to cost U.S. jobs. It's going to cost the stock market. It's going to cost the economy. So I do believe that if Donald Trump wins, you could see a continuation of this anti-China rhetoric. However, you are going to see Donald Trump ease back slightly and realize that he has to work with China. There is just no way to go down a Cold War. I think Pompeo is more pushing that than Donald Trump himself. The interesting thing is you don't see Donald Trump ever talking about human rights. Right? He's not, and that's where I'm going to now go to segment to the next section where we're talking about Joe Biden. What would a Joe Biden victory mean, for China? And I think Joe Biden is not so much talking about that stuff. That's where he's going to be more hammering on Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Taiwan and these issues. That's more the Democrat style. They're not focused so much on the economy and these, American jobs, etc. I want to address a super chat here. Dad Magnet Boy, $10, big thumbs up. Thank you so much for coming in today. Guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to join me here. It's my pleasure to, share these insights as an American expat into my home country as we're getting ready for this very crazy election that's coming up. Now, what would a Joe Biden victory mean for China? Again, I think that you're going to see Joe Biden. He would definitely continue this, campaign against, for instance, there's human rights violations in Hong Kong. There is, there's human rights violations in Hong Kong. Look at the Muslims situation in Xinjiang. I mean, it's very interesting because, I mean, it's a fact. Everyone knows that the United States was very much involved in these protests that were happening in Hong Kong. And that is the one thing that I always talk about China. As I say, China is not an aggressive country. China is not going to go around the world and attack other countries. They're not going to try to take over other lands, but they are going to be very aggressive from foreign interference, and that is what we saw in Hong Kong. I don't think again, you look back. I was in Hong Kong in 2014 during the Umbrella Movement. I mean, there was the protests that were happening there. Everything, for the most part, was pretty peaceful. And it was a very unique time to be in Hong Kong because the students that were protesting there, they had a very different style. They had a very peaceful protest. There was really no violence back in the Umbrella Movement. And eventually that stopped and life got back to normal. But this is the difference is, now all of a sudden we see this, incredible irony here where, basically Nancy Pelosi is saying, look at these rioters in Hong Kong, a beautiful sight to behold. And then here we are, a few months later, we have these massive riots in America. We look at Portland, Oregon, we have these black vans that show up, all these police officers in black clothes that just come out, arrest people, taking down people. I mean, just a full-on military style, occupation of these rioters. It's really interesting, to see the difference. So I know that, there's a lot of evidence coming out, and I know I've been promising a video about Xinjiang for a long time. I'm still gathering information, and I really want to make an epic video, and I'm gathering a tremendous amount of data and evidence to really support, why all of these allegations are not true. And there's just so many red flags when you're talking about Xinjiang and the issues that are going on there. And to be honest, it's really ironic that you have the United States that are saying, you know what, I want to, we're going to campaign for Muslims. I mean, the United States track record in the Middle East is a disaster. There's, I think I read another article on Fortune. I think it was something 37 million people have been displaced from America's war on terror. From America's war on terror, 37 million people in the Middle East have been displaced from their home. So our track record, within the Middle East is not well, and we know that there's many other Muslim minorities throughout China that enjoy freedom. And, again, we're going to talk more about that Xinjiang. D. Wong, thank you so much. Thanks for being you. He sent a nice sticker there. I appreciate it. Thank you for being you. Thank you for joining me today. Guys, again, it's my pleasure. I love doing these live streams. I think if you watch my YouTube videos, you can see I generally like to write out a script. I do a lot of research. They're a little bit more structured. Having the live stream is a great opportunity for me to connect with you, just to speak a little bit from my heart and really, just try to have a little bit more natural interaction with you all. So I think with Biden, the nice thing is, going back to that topic, he's gonna talk more about these social issues essentially with China, which I don't think is a bad thing because, again, we're having more and more evidence proving that this is not true. And again, my thing is with all of these things is you're looking at the United States. Again, they're looking at Xinjiang, they're looking at Hong Kong, they're looking at Taiwan. Now it's Inner Mongolia. This is the thing that really drove me nuts last week. People started commenting saying, look, the Chinese Communist Party is going into Inner Mongolia and it is forcing people to learn Mandarin. How could you do that? And it was amazing. I'm here in Canada right now. So I'm in Vancouver, Canada. And you won't believe this. I went to a Japanese restaurant and the server there, he was half Irish, half Inner Mongolian. So I was talking to him and I said, oh, how much time did you spend in Inner Mongolia? He said, well, my first 18 years, I grew up in Inner Mongolia. My dad's an expat, Irish dad, mother's from Inner Mongolia. And I said, I've lived in China for 10 years. I haven't had a chance to travel to Inner Mongolia. What is the current issue going on there? And he said, well, basically you have, obviously a lot of Han Chinese there, and everything's in Mandarin, and you have the ethnically Mongolian tribe, and so you can choose as growing up, you can choose between the two. Do you want to learn in Mongolian or do you want to learn in Mandarin? Now, obviously, every Han Chinese is going to choose Mandarin, and the Mongolians would choose to learn in Mongolian. But the big issue is the first thing he said off the bat. The problem is jobs. If you learn Mongolian, what future do you have? If you only can speak Mongolian, you can't even function within your own country. And so he said, I think it's a wonderful thing because everybody has to learn Mandarin. Mandarin is the official language of China. And I think what's interesting, if you look at Daniel Dumrill, I'm sure many of you follow him, fantastic vlogger, and based in Shenzhen. He just recently went to Tibet, did an amazing 20-day journey through Tibet. And there's so much of that journey was showing how the Tibetan culture is being preserved. He went to high schools, he went to villages, he went to temples. Everywhere you're going, the Tibetan language is being spoken, it's being taught, the culture is being embraced. There's nothing wrong with embracing your rights. I mean, even like in Hong Kong, right? Everyone's going to speak Cantonese in Hong Kong. My wife is, a native Cantonese speaker. If you speak Cantonese, you love that language, right? I mean, you're proud to speak Cantonese. There's nothing wrong with speaking Cantonese or your local Tibetan language, or you're speaking Mongolian. But let's be realistic. If you're living in Inner Mongolia and you don't speak Mandarin, you have no job prospects in the future. Okay, you need to be speaking Mandarin, and you should be learning English as well, like everybody else in China is doing. And I think it's a great thing. But this is where you have people that just don't understand how China is working. Many people don't understand how ethnically diverse China is. Obviously, we all know that. I mean, there's 56 different ethnic tribes. Stanley Ho, super chat here, #1 fan. Stanley, thank you for that, and thank you for joining the show today. I'm so happy that you're here. So again, I think you're going to see, more of these attacks on China for these human rights. But again, we're making videos to combat that. We're making videos to basically educate people, to share that insight. Many foreigners, when they look into China, they just think it's Chinese. They don't realize there's 56 different ethnic minorities. They don't realize that there's hundreds upon hundreds of regional dialects all over China. So much different than America, which, by the way, in America, we do not have an official language. English is not the official language in America. It is obviously the de facto language in America, but we do not have an official language. That is why if you go to America and you take the United States citizenship test, you can take it in I think 25 different languages. You can take it in a multitude of languages, because there is no requirement that you must speak English in America. It's culturally accepted that you do, but that is the difference. So, and I think that's where many people don't understand. Obviously in China, Mandarin Chinese is Mandarin is the official language, and that's what everybody needs to speak. Now, this is really interesting as well. What do the Chinese people want to see? What do Chinese people want to see in regards to this election? Are they wanting to have Donald Trump win the election? Or are they wanting Joe Biden? Now, many of you might know I'm on Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, and I make videos in Mandarin on that platform to connect with Chinese fans. And I had a chance. I made a video, and I talked about, who do you guys want to see? Do you guys want to see Donald Trump win, or do you want to see Joe Biden? And the overwhelming majority, actually everybody, to be honest, they said, I want to see Trump win. And I was a little surprised by that. And kind of reading some of the comments was really interesting. One of the best ones was, let the show go on. That is what he essentially said. And I think for many Chinese, they realize that obviously, first of all, it's out of their control. Obviously Chinese can't vote in the election. So it's almost kind of like, like, who cares really? It's, America is going to decide what America wants to decide. But I think for Chinese, what they're looking at is, if you look from 2016 until 2020, look at the fall of America. Look at how much America has declined as far as just on the global stage, our image on the global stage. I think if you look at America, let's say in the last year of President Obama, on a global stage, America was still seen much more favorably. America was still seen, as the world leader. And with Donald Trump being elected and these last 4 years of his campaign and his presidency, America's reputation on the international stage has declined severely. Now, I'm currently in Canada right now, and it's amazing talking to Canadians. And they're saying, and again, Vancouver, Canada is 30 minutes from the border, 30-minute drive to the United States border. So we're right there. I'm right next to America, and people, and you couldn't find a bigger difference between these two places, just 30 minutes away. And a lot of Canadians are just like, I just cannot understand America. How can you guys just be so extreme? And it's just it's awful. It's just a joke. It's like a comedy show. And I think that's where a lot of people around the world are really, they're baffled at what's happening in America right now. Now, I think as far as China, it's almost like, well, in the last 4 years, China has continued to rise and America is digressing. So if you want to continue down that road and you want to re-elect Donald Trump, go for it. I think in the long term, I think China is so focused on what China is going to do. I don't think Xi Jinping and the Communist Party is really concerned about whoever wins, Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Why is that? Because they're very focused on what they're doing, right? China's political structure is so organized. Every year they have a 5-year plan in China. Okay, we have a 5-year plan. So 2020 to 2025, they're starting a new 5-year plan, and they are so focused on improving the lives of Chinese people, improving the infrastructure. How do we get better? How do we get better? They're very internally focused. And this is the big thing that I always say about, America is we have so many issues that we really need to focus on in America. I really wish that all of our politicians, instead of having our senators flying on taxpayers' budgets to go to Hong Kong to stand with Hong Kong protesters and say, you know what, we stand for freedom, we stand for democracy. Let's be honest with you. United States senators don't really care about human rights or democracy in Hong Kong. They're just simply wanting to go to Hong Kong to try to weaken China. That's the whole purpose they're there. So the reality is as an American, I'm just saying, look, I'm from the state of Florida. Marco Rubio, he's been banned in China. He's very proud of that. He puts that on his Twitter that I've been banned in China. But again, he's spending his time, talking about China all the time. And it's like, Marco Rubio, we have so many issues in the state of Florida. Let's focus on ourselves. Learn from China. China does not go around the world, is China going to Korea right now saying, you know what, you guys need to change this. Japan, you guys should do this. Thailand, go do this. China is focused on what they're doing. And I think, in one of my recent videos, I talked about Jimmy Carter, the former US president, and he talked about how much money the United States has wasted in wars. $3 trillion the United States has wasted in wars. There's only been 16 years of the United States history that we've actually had peace. All the other times we've been at war. And you look at China, the last war that they were in was in 1979, and they've essentially just been investing into the country, investing back in. It's like a great company that's just producing, exceptional revenues and exceptional profit margins. You can either take out those profit margins or you can keep them in retained earnings and use reinvest back into the company. And I think that's what China's doing. You can see all of these cities around China. My wife and I actually joked about this last night. I was talking about a specific third-tier city, and she's like, "Is there even a third-tier city in China anymore? Like, even you go to a third-tier city, they're so advanced and amazing now. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. How it's just improving the infrastructure. You look at the high-speed rails, how it's connected China. All of these things. China's not wasting its money on these wars." Kevin Law, super chat coming from Canada. Keep up the fair voice. I appreciate it. This is what we need in today's world. And this is my passion right now is obviously, that I have a passion for China, but I also have a passion for America. I mean, it is my home country. And this is one thing that's really interesting is no matter how long you live abroad, I've been living abroad for 13 years, I'm always going to be American, and I am very grateful. America has had a significant role in shaping me and who I am. I got my education in America. I have my entire family is still living in America. So there's so many great things about America, but it hurts for me to be on the outside looking in because I feel that when you're finally abroad, you can see things much clearer. All my friends, that earlier quote that I read about Donald Trump and kind of the typical mindset of the Republicans, this is coming from the typical American that has never left pretty much their state. And that is kind of my home base in Florida. We have so many Floridians and so many kind of say my community, my old community in Florida. They've really never, not even have they left Florida. I mean, not only have they left America, they haven't really left Florida. They've just been in this little bubble. And so they can't really see America clearly. I think you need to step back in order to see clearly what's going on. And that's exactly, what I've been very lucky to have been able to do is go abroad and look back into America. So again, I'm keeping up a fair voice because I want a world where the United States and China can work together. I say that in all my videos, and I believe that is the best mission because if then that happens, the entire world is going to win. So I think with China, I think a lot of Chinese people, you can see there's a rising nationalism in China, right? That, many people are very proud to be Chinese, and they know that when Secretary of State Michael Pompeo, in June this year, right, he says, I hope the Chinese people realize unless they adapt these American values, their society cannot continue to grow. And you just have to laugh. It's like, how ridiculous, like how disconnected are you from reality? Look at what China has accomplished in the last 30 years. They have not done it in the American way, and that's fine. America is a very capitalistic country, and they have their way of doing it. But China has proven it. You know what? I'm going to do it my way. And they've done their own way, and they've been very successful at that. So I think, honestly, I think for most Chinese people, it's kind of either situation. If it's Trump if Americans want to reelect Trump, then go for it, because I think China is going to continue to progress and continue to get better, and I think America is going to simply regress if Donald Trump gets elected again. And so I think Chinese are saying, if that's the road that you want to choose, the fate is in your hands. Go for it. You have that vote. And then obviously, if Biden wins, I think that it also would be, welcome as well, because I think he's going to have a little bit more conventional approach to dealing with China. Joe Biden's being attacked right now because of his connections to China. For instance, Joe Biden said nobody in the world, no political leader in the world has spent more time with Xi Jinping than Joe Biden. He spent so much more time, in China as his role as a senator, as a vice president. He spent a lot of time meeting directly with Xi Jinping. And I don't think that's a good thing for him to be campaigning. So a lot of people, for instance, the Republicans, are now slamming Joe Biden, saying he's China Joe. If you elect Joe Biden, China's going to win. China's going to rule the world. Again, China's goal is not to rule the world. China's goal is to improve China as a country. And I believe that China is open for, a collaboration and learning to work together with America. But it's America that needs to sit down to the table. We need to drop our ego. We need to be able to, reason with China. And so that's kind of my thoughts on, what does China want to do? And now it's coming down to, I want to have a little bit of a prediction. I'm going to give my prediction for, the 2020 election, and then also, just kind of share you some of the thoughts that I have as I'm getting ready to vote, and kind of what my thought is. Now, I think that Donald Trump is the favorite to win the 2020 election. And I do believe, if I had to make a call, I do believe he will win. I do believe Donald Trump is going to win the 2020 election. And the reality is that so much of what he says is, has just really been bought by the American public. The American public, they, everything he says, I support, gun laws. I support this. I support, I want to have, freedom of speech, gun laws. You don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to. We're American. We're freedom. He has really captivated this audience in America. Now, a lot of people ask me, they say, Cyrus, how did Donald Trump get elected in the first place? Now, the reality is you have to look at Donald Trump. Number one is that he has been kind of a celebrity status in America for 40 years. So everybody in America knew Donald Trump to begin with. Now, in 2016, when he came up on stage, the reason why he won is because he is entertaining. That is why Donald Trump wins. Now, whether you like Donald Trump or not, even if you're a Democrat and you hate Donald Trump, you watch his videos because of the ridiculous things he says. And it's funny because, it is, you don't want that in the world leader, right? I mean, this is the American president is the leader of the free world, and you don't want to have this to be like a reality TV show. But again, that is what America was trained for, right? We saw Donald Trump on his reality TV show called The Apprentice, where businessmen and women would audition to be his apprentice. And he was so popular on that show, and he became really a national figure. And again, he's been a celebrity figure in New York for well over 4 decades. So people, they can kind of identify. Your average American, they're not going to identify with a career politician because they're too polished. And Americans like someone that just speaks off the cuff, someone that just speaks their mind. And we know Donald Trump, he certainly just speaks his mind, right? He's going to tell you, he's going to talk like the average American. And I honestly, I do say a lot of times, I think Donald Trump really is the perfect American president. Why is that? Because he's a bit arrogant. He's very loud. He speaks his mind, and he really does represent a large portion of America. And that is why he is so popular right now. Now, I think the interesting thing is, as we see, let me address a couple of super chats because I don't want to miss these like I did last time. Ronald Kim, thank you. Thank you for your insights. I did not know Central Florida is politically conservative. What about Southern Florida area? Example, Miami. Now, Miami is Democratic, very Democratic Miami. Central Florida is, we have a very large Hispanic population in Central Florida. I think you're going to have, again, it is very segmented. That's why Florida is a swing state, right? It is always kind of 50-50. So you have in the state of Florida, Miami, for example, very Democratic. Tallahassee, the capital, that's where I went to school in. That would be more, I believe they're a little bit more Democratic as well. But you have all these pockets of Republican all over. So there's a good mix across the state, I would say. And Thomas Spots, thank you for the super chat as well. Appreciate the support. Now, going back to, Donald Trump, is he the favorite to win? I do believe he's the favorite. I don't like looking at national polls. I think there's a lot of polls that are coming out saying Joe Biden is winning, that it's very close. Donald Trump is losing in these polls. We know that Donald Trump was essentially losing every single poll to Hillary Clinton in 2016. And then it came down to the election day and he won. So I don't really give a lot of, credit to these polls. I don't really care about the polls. I'm just really looking at what is going on now. I think for the Democratic Party, I think it's really tough to have Joe Biden as the front and center. I think Joe, he's a career politician. However, he's at an age right now where it's very difficult for him to carry a conversation and to really think logically. He's 78 years old, and to think of him to be 78 years old and assume the hardest job in the world, it's really difficult. I really just wish, my hope is that in the future, we can start to get some younger, more energetic, and really just charismatic leaders. Like, for instance, I think if the Democratic Party could have produced a younger, like, Cuomo, the governor of New York, that is somebody he would have beat Donald Trump, in a poll, because he's a New Yorker, but he's a lot younger. He also speaks, off of his mind, but he's very elegant in his speech. I think he would have done very good. Now, he obviously declined and said, I'm not going to be running for president, but I think that would have been a better choice. You look at JFK, right? He was kind of like the poster boy, perfect Democratic, candidate, I think, back in the 60s. And I think the Democratic Party needs to get back to somebody of that status. Now, I think kind of what we're looking at, a couple of other things. Trump's the favorite to win. I did mention earlier in this, he has reached this celebrity status where he can kind of say anything he wants and it's not going to affect him. So I don't think, like, even this new national poll or this new evidence that was released saying that Donald Trump played down COVID-19, Americans aren't going to believe that. Even though there's video evidence and there's voice evidence, we're just going to say, you know what? It's still the China virus. It's still the China virus. It's still China's fault. China's ruined our economy. And there's a little bit of jealousy involved as well. I believe, China is the only economy in the world that is forecasted to actually grow in 2020. And everybody else around the world is actually contracting. Obviously, the United States is contracting. There's a little bit of jealousy involved in that because a lot of people are saying, well, look at you, China, you unleashed this virus and now you guys are doing good. Well, they also don't like to credit, the Chinese government on their very swift action to control this virus. Also, the Chinese people, though. And that is the big difference, because I'm talking with people here in Canada and the US, and they're saying, how can China be opened up? How can China already be back? And, people aren't wearing face masks in China anymore on a large scale, certainly at some point, but a lot of people aren't wearing as much as you would see here in the West still. And the reality is you don't realize of what the sacrifice these individuals have done, right? In China during the lockdown, nobody left. Right? Everybody was locked down. Everybody was quarantining. You would not have these cases of, saying, I want my freedom. I want to go out in the streets. Now, first of all, they would not allow that in China. But second of all, Chinese people culturally wouldn't do that as well. Chinese people are more focused on a society together, saying, look, I want to make sure that, our society as a whole is good. And if I'm a little sick, I'm going to stay indoors. I'm going to quarantine. America, we are all about our freedom, and that's just a big cultural difference here. Now, I think, is there a chance that Biden could win? Of course, anything can happen. We saw that in 2016. You never know. Maybe he does win. I'm not sure. My prediction is I think Donald Trump will win again. Now, as I'm going to the poll, I'm going to give you some insights into my thought. Now, this is kind of my thought. When people tell me, Cyrus, who are you going to vote for in 2020? And I say, neither candidate is the change that we need to say in America. So to be honest, it's almost a very defeated state of mind, that I'm coming to the polls at, because I just know, for example, if Donald Trump wins or if Joe Biden wins, neither of these candidates is really going to spark this change that we need to see in America. I'm much more hopeful for 2024. And I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos, is that democracy, one of the best values of democracy is the optimism that it does give its people. You see, in America, we know that no matter how crazy things get on a political scale, we know that a new leader can rise up at any moment and basically, captivate the hearts and minds of America. And this is really a big thing about democracy. And the best example for that was Barack Obama, who in 2004, he was relatively unknown. He was a senator. He was a senator for a couple of years. Nobody really knew him. But Barack Obama got up on the national stage at the Democratic National Convention. He gave an amazing speech. He captivated everybody with the speech. You can look it up on YouTube. It's an incredible speech. But what's amazing about that is that immediately people said, this man can public speak. This man knows how to captivate an audience. He can be the next president of the United States, which of course he did become. Now, I think with Barack Obama, what was really interesting is those 8 years as president of the United States, America was thought of so highly on the international stage. The only people that didn't like Barack Obama was 50% of America, was the Republicans in America. Democrats loved Barack Obama. Everybody around the world loved Barack Obama. And the United States as a whole grew during that time frame because of that. Now, why was Barack Obama unsuccessful, or why do some people say he was a bad president? Because he tried to introduce socialized medicine, right? We have a very terrible healthcare system in America. And he tried to say, I want to have Obamacare, universal healthcare coverage. But again, universal healthcare coverage, that is socialism. That is that negative thing in America. That is not what America wants. And so you had a lot of pushback against that because he tried to introduce Obamacare. It's the fact that every American would be covered under healthcare. And there's a lot of people that did not like that. And it's simply because, in America, for instance, the reason why we've achieved so much success is because we are a capitalistic, very individual company, or very individual, nation. I want to make success. I want to have, I want to be successful. I want to have, money. I'm going to go start my own business. But the reality is, in America, I always say America is the best place in the world to live if you have money. If you have money, America is an amazing place to live and be, because you can afford, for instance, healthcare. I'll give you an example. My parents are in Florida. They're in their 70s, and they're paying $1,200 per month for health insurance in Florida. Now, what does that $1,200 give you? Well, that gives you, they are covered 80-20. So if they have a medical emergency, 80% of that bill will be covered. They're still out of pocket 20%. And to get that 80-20, they're still paying $1,200 a month. That's insanity, right? When you're talking about how expensive healthcare is in the United States. And that is the cost of living to have decent healthcare in America. It is extremely expensive. Now, if you're super wealthy, who cares? You can just pay for it. Now, if you're wealthy, America does have the best doctors, the best facilities, the best cancer institutes, all of this. So, I'm not saying that America's system is not great. We have the technology, we have the doctors. You're just going to have to pay for it. And that's the difference. And I think when you look at Canada, for instance, where I am right now, we have, universal healthcare coverage. All Canadians are covered under this plan. So it is much more of a community feel. That culturally is just a big difference between America. So I think what I'm really looking forward as well is, for instance, when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, do I vote for Donald Trump or do I vote for Joe Biden? Here's kind of my thoughts on this. If I vote for Donald Trump in 2020, I would consider doing that just in the sense of this, is that I know that if we have 8 years of a Republican president, most likely, we're going to almost guarantee the next president would be Democratic, because it's very rare that you would go past 8 years of one party. Usually it goes back and forth. So for instance, if you have, Donald Trump winning for these 4 years, then Joe Biden winning for 4, then that means that it could go either way. However, if you basically have Donald Trump go for all 8 years, you're almost guaranteed that you're going to have, a Democratic president in 2024. I think one of the big things that I've heard right now is that Michael Pompeo is interested in running in 2024. Now, that's something that scares me. I don't like Michael Pompeo. I've made a video about his comments. I think that he has been the worst Secretary of State in the United States history. And I do not want to see him run for president in the United States because, again, he is going to go down that road of conflict and war. And again, this channel and what I'm about is trying to learn to work with each other and trying to solve out these differences. Let me address a couple super chats here. I don't want to forget them. Violet Di Jiangxi. Violet, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for joining today. I so appreciate your support and tuning in. And also, Yuri here, your content reflects a true Christian's view. Definitely a fan of your channel. I appreciate that. I really do. One of the things that I do is I do believe in God, and I am a Christian. And I think a lot of people find that surprising, why it's like, how can you be so pro-China? And I said, well, if Jesus were here today, Jesus would love Chinese. Jesus would love everybody. And that's the thing. Jesus's message was all about love. And my thing is I'm trying to shine a light on, working together. That's at the end of the day, we have to work together, and that is that our two options are war or, cooperation. So what are we going to choose? Now, going back again, I'm not a fan of Michael Pompeo. And so one of my friends I was talking with this is he said, what's interesting, you might actually want to vote for Donald Trump in 2020 just so that you can guarantee there's 8 years of Republican, and then Michael Pompeo couldn't win in 2024. So that's one theory. But I also have another theory as well, that if Joe Biden wins, I will almost guarantee you that within 18 to 24 months, Kamala Harris would become the next president of the United States. I believe that Joe Biden, I do not believe that he has the energy or the ability to actually go a full 4 years in office. I believe, let's say within, 1 year to 2 years, he might say, look, because of my health, because of my ability, I'm not able to fulfill the duties of president. I therefore will resign, and I'm going to give this to my vice president, Kamala Harris. Now, I believe if this happens, this could actually be a really great thing, for America, because I believe that if Kamala Harris became the first female president of the United States, I actually think it would be a really good thing. Now, do I think she's qualified? No, but most U.S. presidents aren't, because again, it's not about, in America, democracy is a popularity contest, right? It's about being able to captivate people, being able to speak. You look at I did a video comparing China's political system and how it's so structured, for Xi Jinping to enter the Communist Party at the age of 21, and until he became president of China, that was almost 4 decades of work. I believe it was 37 years, in order to get to the top. And he had to prove himself at every single level. Kamala Harris, she's an amazing attorney. She's a great attorney from the state of California, but she's been a senator for a few years. She doesn't have a lot of experience. She doesn't have the experience to, govern and to really lead the United States of America. However, I think what would be really interesting is if she became president, I think the United States' reputation on a global stage would actually be increased, because I think it would be a huge moment for America to have a female president. I believe a lot of nations around the world would look more positively at America. And I believe that when you're looking at America right now, is, let's just say our reputation on a global stage is probably the lowest it's ever been. I mean, I don't think it's been any lower. And I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of Chinese people, and they're simply saying, we actually just so surprised at China. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're so surprised at America. I mean, it has, we always used to look up to America, right? America was our dream. Like, we always loved America. That's why, we go to Starbucks. That's why we eat at McDonald's. We watch the NBA. Like, we want to go on holiday. We want to go to Disneyland. Our dream is to go to an American university. I mean, we've always been enamored with America. And then now you see these attacks, these racist attacks. You see all of the stuff that's happening in America. I mean, Chinese don't have that dream anymore. That dream is, and it's almost a feeling of sadness, I think, because it's like, wow, look at this great country, and so much of it is what you're doing to yourselves. It's not like another country's come in to attack you. America's problem stems from within America. And so I think we're seeing that not only in China, but also, in Europe and Australia and all other countries around the world, just saying, what's going on? America, what are you doing? So it's kind of, I kind of, closing out this section, I'm almost a little defeated in the sense as American. It is, every election year is a very exhausting year for an American, because first of all, we know the candidates well in advance. For the last 12 months, we've known that it's going to be Biden and it's going to be Trump. And so you have this pressure, and it's dominating the news headlines. Every single day you hear about the election. Everybody around the world is asking you, what is your thoughts about the election? And I think most Americans, including myself at this point, we're at a point where we're saying, you know what? I just want this election to be done. I just want somebody to win, and then let's try to move forward, because we know every 4 years we're going to have this, this turnover. There's going to be a change every 4 years, unless somebody gets reelected. But we're going to have this big election process that we have to go through every 4 years. So I think what many people are thinking in America is, what, let's get the president, let's decide it, and then let's move forward. And I think Donald Trump is going to, I think he's going to win. And I believe, though, at this point, though, I'm certainly not going to be voting for Donald Trump. I think it's just hard for me to really, stand by that. This is the thing in 2016. The two choices were Trump and Hillary. and I just could not get on board with either candidate. I didn't want to have casting a vote for either candidate on my hands. For instance, if we're in 2020, I've had people say to me, Cyrus, you're American. I don't support you on your YouTube channel because you probably voted for Donald Trump. And I haven't. And I can reply. I said, look, I did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I don't have that on my conscience. I don't have that on my hands. And, it's hard to really support that. So kind of that theory that I mentioned earlier, maybe you should support Donald Trump just so that we can guarantee there's going to be a Democratic leader in 2024. Probably not. I'm not going to go down that road. It's very difficult for me to get behind this. So anyways, guys, these are my thoughts, as far as everything. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who wins. Neither candidate is going to be the change that we need to see. I'm looking more towards 2024, but I also know that, we are going to have to reconcile with China. We're going to have to figure this out with China, because I know that I do believe a lot of this anti-China rhetoric was leading up to this election. And it certainly goes well for the Republican Party. The Republican Party is saying, look, it's the China virus, China's fault, China ruined our economy. But I tell you what, I do believe that, in 2021, whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden, I believe that we're going to have to sit down with China and we're going to have to really figure out a game plan moving forward. I don't believe that we're going to continue down this road. I do believe that it will change. And a lot of it was, because of this election. So those are my thoughts. I want to thank you guys so much. I'm going to open it up for some questions here. If anybody has some questions, I know there has been a very big, very big active chat box here on the side. Let's see, humanity first, no better candidate. Yeah, yes, every election is definitely a panic thing. It's a tough one. I mean, it's always amazing how, we're preaching this idea. It's like, we have democracy. We can choose for whoever we want. Well, no, we don't. We get to choose for the two candidates that are presented to us. And many times, this is the kind of thing that you often hear in America. It's a choice between the best of two evils, right? They're both bad. Which one is the less of two evils, I should say? And that's a really sad, state that we're in. But anyways, that's where we're at. Cyrus, your analysis of the U.S. and China is more insightful and accurate than most American political pundits. I'm just, I think, I appreciate the compliment. And I just think what's interesting is the difference is that I have a little bit more, I have international experience. So I'm talking an American from abroad, which we have so many of these political pundits, they're only seeing it from inside their bubble. And that is the big difference. Yeah, PRC is different from the from the DPRK in North Korea. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing significant is happening in Mongolia. I agree. Emperor Trump will win for the emperor. Go USA. Again, I'm pro USA. I mean, I want America to do well, but I mean, I just thought about, what if America and the United States, what if the United States and China, they actually work together? How much good could they do for the world? I mean, they would be an unstoppable force of good around the world for everybody to do that. Let's see this. Fluffing fluff. I never really understood the idea of spending billions of dollars on the election rather than helping people who need help. It's all just a show. That's the interesting thing about the different. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for that super chat. And thanks for bringing up that question. Here's the interesting thing. In China, billionaires cannot influence the party. Okay, it's impossible. Jack Ma, the richest man in China, he has no influence. He cannot use his billions of dollars to influence how the party of China is going to make decisions and how they are going to rule the country. However, we know that billionaires can control what happens in America. America, and this is the double-edged sword of America, because it is a democracy, because it is all about capitalism. Capitalism can be manipulated. Democracy can be manipulated. And I believe that is why the United States wants to have, say, democracy installed in China, because they know they can manipulate it. And you look at how democracy has been installed in other countries around the world, specifically, in Southern American countries that, Chile is a really good example. Chile back in the 1960s, America went in there and they developed the entire telecommunications network in Chile, the country of Chile. And they actually overthrew the president at that time. They overthrew him with a military coup, and the American brought in military. They destroyed him. They assassinated him, and they basically said, we want to provide you with this democracy. But at the end of the day, it was America who was controlling things from the back end. You can control things in that, and that is why it is very much a for-profit experience. Democracy is all about the money, and that's why. And this is really tough as well. I'm going to give you another example. Marco Rubio, who I'm very critical of, he's the senator in Florida. A couple of years ago, my home state, we had the deadliest school shooting in history. It was in Parkland, Florida. And you would have seen this in America, because what we had a huge rise of students rise up, and they said, enough is enough. We are going to march in Washington, and we're going to get 1 million people to march, and we are going to end this gun violence in America. We cannot have our students being shot and killed in America. And what they did is, the organizers, now they're a bunch of teenagers, amazing speakers. I give a lot of credit to them for their passion on wanting to change this gun violence in America. And they got up on stage with Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida. And they said, Marco Rubio, you receive millions of dollars from NRA. NRA is the National Rifle Association. They are a huge, huge influence in American politics, and they essentially buy out a lot of American politics. Now, Marco Rubio, I think in his career, he's made $3 or $4 million, for his political career from the NRA. And they just said, Marco Rubio, our state of Florida, we just had the deadliest school shooting. Can you please commit to not taking any more money from the NRA? Because you need to take a stand against this. He's like, I guarantee you, if you said, I'm not taking a stand with the NRA, I'm going to end gun violence, I bet you would get $3 to $4 million in donations from people that would support you. But what did Marco Rubio said? Well, it's not that easy. Folks, it's not that easy. Unfortunately, I'm trying to do everything I can. He just dodged the question. And even the kids are just like, really? Like, after this school shooting on this national stage, you have a chance to say that you'll do this. Literally, you could probably raise 3 or 4 million. You'd probably raise more than the money that the NRA gave you, but you've sold out to this company simply because, they're giving you millions for your campaign. That is the truth. And that is what's happening in America. And that is why. And that's what's also so interesting is you look at, for instance, we have this idea that democracy is one man, one vote. Me, Cyrus Janssen, I'm an American. I have one vote. Jeff Bezos, Amazon CEO, he's one man, one vote. Now, do we really have the same power? Obviously not, because my vote is just one vote. But Jeff Bezos, with his billions, he could influence a lot of people. He could swing an entire election. He could control whoever he wants to be in president. He could control because of the money that he has and the influence that money gives. And that is the difference between these two systems. America, you can certainly, influence by money and by buying votes, and that is a democracy. That is capitalism. And that's why to become American president, you need these huge amounts of money in order to pull this off. And China, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you will never be able to intervene and influence the direction the Communist Party is going. And that is a big difference. Trevor Norman, wish the Yanks would keep their nose out of the UK. We are not the 51st state. We are our own country. Trevor, I agree with that. And I feel I shared on my Twitter. If you're active on Twitter, I do share insights on Twitter as well. But I shared, with Huawei, I believe they've made a terrible decision, obviously banning Huawei. Now the UK, they have decided to leave the EU, which is their decision. But the big thing that they are doing is they've obviously, they're basically paddling up to the United States, and they're saying, we're going to follow you and we're going to follow your lead. Trump gave them a lot of pressure to ban Huawei. They did it. I think, I agree. I wish the UK would make their own decisions and not be influenced by America and just tell America to buzz off. You need to do what's best for the UK. I don't believe banning Huawei is what's best for the UK. Again, it's the same thing that we're seeing, Huawei, whether WeChat or TikTok. Now it's the Confucius Institutes. Now it's Chinese students in general. Basically, did you see yesterday, the new thing? The forest fires in America are now being blamed on China. Right? They're basically accusing, that the Chinese government has sent drones over and are dropping these fire bombs to, burn the United States. And in actuality, the fire department has come out and said, well, because most of the drones come from China and we're banning all the stuff from China, we're not actually we're not able to get all these drones from China anymore. So it's actually hindering our response because we're actually using drones to put out fires. But it's kind of going down this road in America where it's like, let's blame China. That is the new motto right now. Let's blame China for everything. I was flabbergasted when I saw that they were actually trying to blame China, for the forest fires here. All right, let me just, Rubio supported the attempted coup in Hong Kong. He did, and that's why he's been bad. Stanley Ho, Ireland is still with Huawei. That's good. I did not know that. That's awesome. All right. USA willing to work with Ericsson and Nokia, who both dealt with Iran, but won't work with Huawei because they might have. Fred, very good insight there. And the other thing that's interesting about this, this insight into Ericsson and Nokia, the United States government has says that they're going to invest money. They would like to essentially put a bunch of federal money behind both of these companies in order to get involved and actually make a bid to challenge Huawei in this 5G race. So that's something that the United States government typically doesn't do. But again, these attacks against Huawei, it is just as simple as can be. It is just simply Huawei developed the technology, America didn't, and they just want to have that control, and they didn't. Do you think many Americans are gullible? Good question. I think what you have for most Americans, and I made a video about this actually on Douyin. I haven't put it on YouTube yet. I'll share it on YouTube. But it's basically, why are many Americans gullible? The problem is with many Americans is that they have not left America. And I made a comparison. I made a comparison between a typical American and a typical Chinese. I said most Americans have never left America. Most Chinese have never left China. But the difference is you have Chinese people are studying English from a young age. They're learning about American culture. You take the average Chinese person, they're going to know a lot more about America than the other way around. The average American doesn't know anything about China. And it's such an interesting thing. I'll give you an example about this. When I was graduating university, I was in Florida. I was getting ready to graduate university, and a girl and we were in a class, and the professor said, let's talk about your future career plans. And the girl in front of me, she said, I'm really nervous because I'm moving from Florida. Now it's this, I've lived my entire life in Florida, and I'm going to Texas, and I'm really nervous. Texas is a whole new state. It's got a different culture. People are different there. I'm very nervous to move to Texas. And I'm kind of sitting there scratching, like, it's Texas. Like, it's not really that much different. I mean, you can go to all 50 states in America. They're tabadola, right? They're pretty much the same. Now, it was funny. I was next in line. I said, well, I'm graduating and I'm moving to China. Now that's a cultural difference. That's a big difference. But you can kind of see into that mindset. Here is this. The Americans. A lot of Americans don't even travel a lot within the United States. They're very segmented to their local communities. And this was something when I went back to Orlando, Florida, to my hometown, and I would meet up with my old high school friends. I was living in China at the time, and I couldn't tell them about China. I would say they'd be like, "Cyrus, you're living in China. What's that like?" And I try to tell them about China. And within 30 seconds, I could see that it just went right over their heads. They couldn't really understand the concept of me, living abroad, and just that everything was just so foreign to them. And I think that's what you have is you do have a large part. And again, are Americans gullible? I think that they're very susceptible to believing everything that's happening in America, and it comes from the top. President Trump, I mean, he has sold this lie that China has ruined America. China has manufactured the coronavirus. They did this to systematically attack our economy so that they can be number one in the world. And that is why we have this, we have made China the enemy. And I do believe a lot of Americans that believe that. But what's great is that we have a lot more people that are speaking out against this and saying, look, that's not true. And we're starting to change that narrative. Let me look at some more questions here, guys. Any more questions? We'll do it for another 5 minutes or so. Any other questions, guys? Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. I wanted to talk about the 2020 election, and again, I do enjoy doing these live streams because it's a chance for me to connect with you, just be a little bit more real and a little bit more off the cuff. I do enjoy these, and I love connecting and seeing all these comments from everybody. Let's see. Yeah, most Americans know nothing about other countries. That's pathetic. It's tough. I mean, it is tough. And I will say something to kind of in America's defense in that. If you look at America, our country is so beautiful and so diverse. So you kind of have everything you want in the world. You can kind of find in America. For example, if you want to go hiking, or you want to go on the beach, or you want to go skiing, or you want to be in the prairie lands. I mean, we have such a diverse country that. Typically, I mean, you don't need to go to Europe to find world-class skiing. You can find that here. You don't need to go to Australia for world-class beaches. We have that here. This is kind of the mindset. And in addition to that is, besides Mexico and Canada, everywhere else is kind of far away. So, it's different than in Europe, obviously, like if you're growing up in, Germany. I mean, by the age of 18, you've probably traveled to a dozen countries at least. Just because you're in Europe, everything's more connected. You have the train system and stuff. So, a little bit of grace, I guess you could say, for America. But I always do want people to travel abroad. So, what about the Americans in the East Coast or West Coast when it comes to overseas travel? Good question. I mean, certainly there's still a lot of Americans that travel overseas. I mean, don't get me wrong. The interesting thing is, I don't know if you can see on my wall here, I've got the Germany flag right here. My mother's from Germany, and I'm a German national as well. I'm actually a dual citizen, U.S. and Germany, and I support the German football team. So I'm also a very big World Cup fan. So I've been to 4 World Cups. I was in Germany in 2006, South Africa 2010, and Brazil 2014. Now, at all of these World Cups, the number one visitor from overseas is Americans. So we do have this reputation that, not many Americans travel overseas. There is still a lot that do, but I think what the problem is I think growing up in the American education system, so much of our education system is focused on American history. We don't spend a lot of time learning about other parts of the world. I'll be honest with you. I grew up in Florida. I graduated from university, and I did not know anything about Canada, the country that we share a border with. In fact, I went to China in 2007, and my roommate was from Canada. And at that time, I think I made a comment, something like, Toronto's the capital of Canada. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's Ottawa. How do you not know that? I'm like, oh. And that was me, the ignorant American. And that was in my first year of living abroad. So I've changed a lot as well because I've been exposed to so many different cultures and areas. But that was me. I was a university educated American, and I'll be honest with you. I'll lose some face here and just say, look, I didn't know the capital of Canada was Ottawa because we don't know anything about Canada, even our own country. So it is just a little bit with that. Gray Fox, good question. Will you go to Qatar 2022? I'm not going to go to Qatar 2022 because I'm not a fan of how they won that World Cup. Qatar won that World Cup, by bribing and getting. And the problem is it's just a terrible location to have the World Cup. The beauty about the World Cup is that you have it spread over a huge country, and Qatar it doesn't have a football culture. It's such a small country. I just think they went there simply because of money reasons. I think the United States, Australia, England, all of these countries had bids to host the 2022 World Cup. I would have loved to gone to any of those. I most likely won't. In addition to that, I've got 3 young children, so it's just kind of hard to travel right now. For that. However, 2026 is going to be North America, Canada, U.S., and Mexico joint bid. So I'll definitely we'll be attending those for sure. Anti-China in America. Anti-China America is just like the Nazi anti-Jews, full of jealousy and racism. And there's a lot of that. Yeah, absolutely. This is why I don't really like this. If you look at on Twitter, they have a hashtag trending that's a Chinazi, saying that the Chinese is like the Nazi party. I think that's incredibly disrespectful, and it couldn't be further from the truth. And it's we have enough hate in this world. We really do. We need to look at how do we build these countries together, and how do we have this understanding. I've been really blown away by this channel and the amount of emails, the comments that I get, from everybody around the world thanking me for putting this content out, and trying to shed a light on some of the truth here and trying to help people, bring people together. It's amazing. I've received so many emails from Chinese citizens that have actually, well, let's say Chinese that grew up in China, were in China during Tiananmen 1989. They grew up in the Cultural Revolution, but they came to America in let's say the late 80s and 90s, and they become a naturalized American citizen. And I've received emails from them saying, thank you for portraying China in a more positive light. I was in China back in the 80s and 90s, and I'm still proud to be Chinese. I'm still proud to be Chinese. I still love my home country, and I've done well for myself in America. I'm an American citizen. I live here. My family's here. But I am still Chinese, and it's amazing to see what China's been able to accomplish these last 30 years. And again, America is still an amazing country. It's still an amazing economy. There's still so many great things in America. But again, imagine if these two were working together. Think about the One Belt One Road initiative that China is doing right now, and how it's helping so many countries in Africa. There's not a country in the world that has done more good for the continent of Africa than China. Certainly not America. China's efforts into Africa are starting to transform that continent. There's not a single country in the world that has done more good for Africa than China itself. And a lot of people slam China, right? They're just saying, "Oh, you're giving these huge loans that they're never going to be able to pay back." Well, we saw that in COVID-19. China waived all of these loans and saying, "Look, you don't have to pay this back right now because you're dealing with COVID-19." Obviously, Jack Ma, Alibaba, Chinese government sending tremendous amount of supplies all over the world. As soon as China develops a vaccine, it's going to be available for free on the worldwide stage. Can you imagine if the United States develops that vaccine? It's going to be expensive. I guarantee you that, because in America, we do not have a healthcare system. We have a healthcare industry. Let that sink in for a second. We do not have a healthcare system. We have a healthcare industry. And in America, at the end of the day, it's all about the Benjamins. And what I mean by that is Benjamin Franklin, he's on the $100 bill. So it's all about the Benjamin. It's all about the money. And that's why it's this double-edged sword, because America has achieved so much success because we're so entrepreneurial. We're so capitalistic. And that's why I said it's a great country to live in if you've got a lot of money, because you can pay for, your medical expenses. You can pay for these things. But the people that really suffer is the 10 million Americans that can't afford medical insurance. And God forbid something happens to them, they're going to die or they're going to go into debt and then leave that debt on to the next generation. So it's very difficult. I mean, I love what China's doing. I mean, I think that they're very interested. I mean, you look at the schools that they're building. They're building roads, infrastructure, airports. You look at the Maldives, for example, the island nation of the Maldives in the Indian Ocean. China, the number one. I saw this in a recent report. Since May till now, there's been 1 billion renminbi worth of travel booked to the Maldives from Chinese nationals. Now, obviously, Maldives, it's an island nation. Its entire economy is built on tourism. Now, China went in and rebuilt the airport. They rebuilt the airport. They built the bridge. They built all of this infrastructure in the Maldives. Now, is China going to benefit from that? Absolutely, they will. I'm sure they're going to get profits from that. I'm sure they're having a very good return on their investment. And why wouldn't you? I'm an investor. I invest in the stock market. I invest in companies. I'm not going to put my money into something to lose money, but if I'm investing in, if you're going to build an airport, build a bridge, build this infrastructure in the Maldives, obviously it's also helping the Chinese, because there's a tremendous amount of Chinese that go to the Maldives, but it's a win-win. I mean, go to the Maldives and ask the people that live there, what do you think of China? I guarantee you they're going to say positive things, because look at their country, how it's improving. The infrastructure is improving. They're getting more tourists from China. This is obviously their entire economy depends on tourism. So, it is a win-win. And I think when you're seeing in Africa, the other interesting thing as well is you look at the amount of Chinese people in China. There's just so many Chinese people. They almost need to expand outside of China. They want to build this territory. You have so many Chinese are going to Africa because it's the kind of the wild, wild west, the new frontier, of development. And so, yeah, they are building roads and infrastructure, but they're also building local schools and everything like that. But people are going to get slammed, right? There's videos of Africans learning Chinese, and they're saying, look at this, they're already colonizing Africa. China is the best colonizer, is the worst colonizer of the world the last century. I mean, that's a joke. We look at, America and the UK and our history of colonizing around the world. I mean, China is going in and building connections and building hope. And again, go to Africa and ask the people what they think. I mean, is America going in and building all these schools and really helping out the people there? I don't think so. Germany has the best tech and machinery for years. Yes, I'm German. I'm proud. My mother's from Germany. I mean, Germany is amazing. They're a great country. Best beers and cars. Helping Africa like no other country. Hey, Gray Fox. Hey, Jayo, Matt from Jayo Nation. Thanks for joining, buddy. Matt's such a good guy. If you don't follow Matt I love watching his videos, and we've done a few live streams together. Matt is a great fellow China vlogger. China's Exclusion Act 140 years ago. Yeah, Mike Strong, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, the Chinese Exclusion Act in America. This is not a new thing that's happening in America. Let's see. All right, I'm going to just... all right, here's from Yin Ho Kor. The West accusing China of colonization is the same as the toilet calling the kitchen filthy. The difference, you can eat out of the kitchen. How good is that? That's a very good insight right there. And yeah, Kang is saying, Yes, China is building Africa's future. Absolutely, they are. I think it's a very helpful thing. So I'm going to go. Let's just say one last question, and then we're going to tune off for today. We've had a great session, everybody. Again, I'm so thankful that you're taking time out of your Sunday to come spend some time with me and talk about these things. We got some new, more exciting things happening on the channel. I'm not going to say yet. I've got a couple big announcements coming up. I'm going to let you wait a little bit. We got some good things though, so don't worry. All right, thanks for the live stream, Cyrus. Who's the president of the Confederate United States, Donald Hitler or Adolf Trump? Oh man, that's tough. I mean, a tough thing with Donald Trump is for instance, he always says that he's not racist, and I believe that he's not racist. But the problem is the way that he speaks and his ideology. It actually promotes racism in a way. It's a really interesting thing. Donald Trump's never going to come out and say that he's racist or that I don't like black people or Asian or the different things like this. But the problem is you look at the hardcore Donald Trump supporters, and they are indeed, becoming more and more racist. And this is what we're seeing. I mean, these attacks against the Chinese, these attacks against, all these different ethnicities. So it's a tough one. Well, great job, Cyrus. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, so I want to thank you all for today. Again, I've got some exciting news coming up for the channel. I'm going to be kicking up my video production. I've had the last couple of weeks, I had to take some time off simply because, I was very busy with the 3 kids. It was their last week of summer. We wanted to spend some time with them. Some upcoming videos that you can see from me. I'm going to talk to you about why I left China. Now, many people want to know this. A lot of people have said to me, Cyrus, if you love China so much, why are you not living in China right now? So I'm going to have a big video that I'm going to basically reveal the reason why my wife and we actually left China 3 years ago. I'm going to reveal that. It's going to be a very interesting video to kind of give some perspective about that. So that's going to be an upcoming video again. I'm finishing up my Xinjiang video right now as well. I'm also going to be making one about the Confucius Institute. It's very interesting. The Confucius Institute is being attacked right now, in America and around the world. So I'm going to make a video about that as well. But those are some things that you can be expecting. And I've also got some other exciting, collaborations that are upcoming. But again, we're going to end the stream today. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join me. We're going to continue building this community and building, knowledge, and the fact that cooperation between China and the United States is the best plan for the world moving forward. Like I always say, when the United States and China work together, the world wins. Again, I'm Cyrus. Thank you guys so much for your time. And we'll see you guys in the next video or the next live stream. Thank you.